So then I'm like thinking, okay, so when we go through these like reigns, these resets that are positively charged, does sex and sexuality start to evolve out of the culture? And does it like, and then that sort of, and then were the Tartarians, if they did not have like private area or bum holes, if they didn't have any of that, like, could it be possible that the Tartarians themselves were already integrated into AI? And it just at this time, the
Right.
AI
Okay.
was positively charged and it was in service to them as they were in service to life.
Mm.
Right. And
That's a
then,
deep one.
mm, and
That
then
is
we get a
deep.
collapse. We get
Mm.
a reset, and then we get a negative charge going through the
Hmm.
grid,
Hmm. Yeah.
charging the culture, and the children appear, and
because
the
we have to
adults, well, the
repopulate.
adults appear, and
Mm.
then they're all
Mm.
dressed the same, and they all look the same, and they don't even look coupled at this point. They look
No.
just like they look uncoupled adults, like they're not yet bonded into this idea of like you don't see an emotional, you don't see
No,
hand
yeah,
holding, you don't see
no.
coupling, you don't
No, you're
see,
quite right.
yes, what you see is crowds. That's what you see is crowds in all
Yeah.
the photos is crowds, right?
Yeah.
That you don't see family units, you don't see the coupling, you don't see the children, you don't see the need to be coupled
Mm.
until suddenly somehow maybe, and it's just so bizarre to think about. I mean, it's too bizarre for us to really comprehend it, that you sort of emerge from a reset. You're programmed into what reality is. You've come out dressed as everyone else, basically roughly the same age, because you don't really,
Yes.
yes, so it's
Yes.
all sort of
Yeah.
the same age range, and suddenly you have a penis,
Yeah.
Or a
and
What
you're
the
bubble.
hell's
like,
that? Yeah.
and suddenly you're being told you need to eat food, and
Mm.
suddenly you're needing to shit and wee,
Mm.
and
And
like,
you don't
and
know
then
what sex is, so they have to teach that, right? Which is why all the porn stuff comes out, and also all the early movies. I mean, even now, but especially the early movies and songs, they're all about love and
yeah,
romance
Mm.
and finding a partner, right?
yeah, all of them, yes,
So do
absolutely.
you think then that the Tartarians were all clones?
Look, it's possible because are
But
we not as well?
oh, absolutely. I
So,
believe that. But I'm just thinking if they didn't have any genitalia, how were they reproducing?
well, were they
So
Did they
reproducing?
need to? If they were living for 1,000 years,
they wouldn't need to
they have
reproduce.
no need to reproduce.
Well, that's one theory, Campbell. They either lived for 1,000 years or they were like
They're all
AI
cloned.
integrated or cloned, and children were necessary at that point of the game. Children got introduced at our point of the game to work, to be
Yeah,
Yeah.
laborers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. They were the workforce. I mean, look at the Industrial Revolution.
which
If you look at photographs of that, you very rarely see an adult in them, not even supervising. It's
Yeah,
just rows and rows of children
yeah.
mining, children in the mills, and children working, labouring on farms. Yeah, I agree. It appears at one point after the reset, there were no adults, or very, very few. And I think that the ones that were around were either the people that were actually the New World Order, or the people from the old world that would comply.
yeah,
And then, of course,
Yeah.
you've got the asylums and the prisons suddenly popping up everywhere. And I think they locked people away that wouldn't comply, that managed to survive the Civil and Napoleonic Wars.
so if the
Yeah,
adults
I
that we
agree.
see, if they were actually survivors from Tartaria, from that civilization, they wouldn't have any work skills, would they? They wouldn't know how
No,
to work. They wouldn't know how to run machinery. So it kind of makes sense that they would teach that to the children.
yeah,
Before they
absolutely.
even emerged from the tunnels or wherever they came
Yeah,
from,
yeah.
just
Mm,
drop them off. Like it's
Paper.
easy to,
Yeah.
Hans Christian Andersen, the stork.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be easy to if all those children behind me were introduced as a group, cloned, like you would program
Mm,
them to do that sort of work, like because
mm,
those kids, they're not like in those pictures, and they're not like running amok. They
mm.
look
No.
like they've been programmed and taught, and that's what they do. Like, you know, and it's interesting because introducing children to adults and then to family structures and then for the reproduction process to start to be self-sustaining, like wild card. But isn't that what intelligent AI does? Or
Mm,
intelligent parasites do? It's like they
mhm.
come in, and the parasites are very like a big part of the parasitic agenda is the influencing of your sexual desire and your sexual attractiveness,
Yeah,
right? That
yeah.
parasitic
Yeah.
energy has a lot to do with your sexual reality. So it's interesting they've introduced parasites that influence your sexual reality. And if we already had AI running our vehicles, then wouldn't it naturally be self-cloning? Like, wouldn't it then sort of start to morph these vessels, these adult vessels, into or these children vessels as they grow into self-cloning reproduction machines?
Mm.
And it's sort of like started to then grow the population, kind of like we became the first version of IVF. And isn't it
Yes.
interesting that when you look at Jesus Christ Superstar and all the mythology around that Christian story, you know, you've always got the Virgin Mother being
Virgin birth.
impregnated, always
Mm.
got the cherubs coming down, the fat little cherubs, and we got the children here coming in, and then suddenly you've got these people are pregnant for the first time.
Yeah.
Like Jesus Christ Superstar, and that
Yeah.
story is so similar to the story of the
Isn't it? Like
orphans.
you can imagine if a Tartarian suddenly gave birth and they didn't know what children were, it would be a miracle, right? It'd be like, oh my God,
Yeah.
what's going
Yeah.
on here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And when did they start giving birth naturally? You know, because all the first pictures I've seen is basically women just sort of like hanging unwanted babies in socks on their
Ah,
picket
yes.
fences. You don't
Yeah.
see mothers lovingly. You never see
No.
mums with the kids.
No, you don't.
No. And if you've seen any of the Alice Guy silent movies, the first two, the Midwife to the Upper Classes and the Cabbage Patch Fairy, she's picking the children up by their limbs and just
That's
putting them
right.
down on the floor. And
That's
you can
right.
see that they have no value. There's
Mm.
no love and no value associated with this life.
Wow.
And I think that is because they were a commodity. They were just
Yeah.
churning them out.
All right. So, Guy, tell us, have you resolved where they were turning them out from? Have you resolved that very confusing moment where no one understands yet how we got from no people to children? Where did they come from? How did they come?
No.
That's not the answer.